What's up, y'all? We're back today with another game day graphic. We're almost done with the series. The last graphic is one of my favorite graphics I've ever made, so you should definitely watch that one. Again, we started out with the same texture that we used for the floor for most of the other ones. I found this picture of a sort of like scary wooded background and then just faded that up from the bottom. So I decided to use two cutouts as you saw in the preview and just put a camera raw filter on those as I do to most things that I bring in. I found this picture of a hat, a chef's hat to put on his head to go along with the cooking up beach chicken theme. Then I just used a curves layer and kind of brought down the light areas on it to make it match kind of the darker vibe. So then I added in this hue and saturation layer set to colorize. So if you make a hue and saturation layer, click this colorize button, and then I crank the saturation all the way up, and then you can change the color here with this slider and you can make it lighter or darker. So I made it pretty orange, and then I set it to screen. It's on 71% opacity, and then I just painted on, as you can see with the layer mask, where I wanted it. And then the other thing that you can do, which I did here, is bring down the slider. So when you bring down the slider, it takes it off of the really dark areas, just depending on how far you bring it down, which gives it a little more of a realistic look because the lighting doesn't hit the darkest areas most of the time. I have that orange lighting on him because of the fire, obviously. Then I have the other cutout with another smart filter, camera raw filter on him. Then I gave a spatula. I put the prong cooking thing in his hand, and then obviously just used a layer mask, painted out where his hand is to make it look like he's holding it. And then I gave him the same treatment with the hue saturation layer set to colorize on orange, and then drag down the blacks a little bit so that it only hit the somewhat lighter areas. And then on both of them I used another curves layer and just brought it down a bit to darken the outer edges of them because the fire is like right here, gonna be right here in the middle of them, so it only makes sense to kind of darken the outer sides. And then I did that one more time with another curves layer. This one is less contrasty. I just brought down the highlights and painted that on the specific spots I wanted on the outside of them. And then this curves layer, which is bringing up the shadows a little bit because I think I was trying to match the background here. So the shadows in this background photo are not very dark, so I think I was just trying to match that a little bit better. Then I added in some shading for this. Then I just used a soft black brush to give the barrel thingies right here some like floor shading to make them look like they're actually there, and then used a curves layer that I just brought down to make them darker because this obviously wouldn't be getting hit by too much light. And then I used another colorized hue saturation layer, which is basically just a big soft brush that's kind of like hitting this general area to kind of give it all one look. As you can see, it kind of goes from like bluish here and red here and orange here to like more of a yellowy orange all the way throughout this area. So then I added on this grate, and it's a pretty bad picture of a grate, but it worked out. And I just kind of cut out where the fire was. I added on a curves layer and an inner shadow, which I think is just a yellow light actually, to make it look like the fire is hitting it. You can barely even tell it's there, but you can kind of see something's there, which is the point. It doesn't need to be too detailed. So this curves layer was just bringing down the highlights. As you can see, it's really bright right there, and the grate looks more realistic if it's not so dark. So then we added on the chicken, and I just cut out where the fire was, and then I added on another layer of the chicken on top of all that set to hard light to give it kind of like that more juicy cooked chicken look. And then added in some smoke in the background. As you can see, that's what it looked like before. I just kind of like painted it in where I wanted it with a soft brush. And then also I used this to get rid of some of the darker areas. So if you use this top one, it's based on the layer you're actually putting the effect on, and if you use the bottom one, it's based on the underlying layers. So then I added in another hue saturation layer set to colorize, again set to screen. Usually I set it to screen. And then I just painted on with a soft brush just some glow from the fire just all around this area, nothing too specific. And then we just have the information below, a color lookup layer, and then a hue saturation layer where I think I just tweaked sort of the green blue look back here to make it more of like a yellowy orange. You can barely even tell, but I think it makes it look all like more uniform. Then I added the game day graph or the game day text, and then added in the gradient overlay and our lighting and our color lookup, and then the bottom info. So thanks thanks for watching. Make sure you check out the next video coming out. One of my favorite graphics I've ever made. Like I said before, it's gonna be super awesome. So I'll see you in the next one.